The sea came first, as it always did at storm's end. Tidal breath rolling in like the low growl of some colossal beast disturbed from ancient slumber. Dawn had not yet breached the horizon, and the whole fortress stood in half-light, its vast drum-shaped keep looming against a pewter sky. Gendry Baratheon, though he had earned the right to the name only recently, and reluctantly, felt the stones vibrate beneath his boots while the surf battered the cliff far below. He paused in the courtyard with a wooden bucket in each calloused hand, and inhaled air spiced with brine and lightning. The storm above had gathered through the night, yet the castle's outer walls remained unshaken, as if the old gods and new alike acknowledged that here, wind and wave merely played at a war they could never win. He liked mornings such as this, when the world seemed stripped to muscle and bone, and no one expected him to bow to etiquette he barely understood. The yard was empty, save for a one-legged stable cat perched atop a bale of damp straw. Gendry offered the creature a curt nod, set his buckets near the forge entrance, and nudged the heavy oak door open with a shoulder. Warm, iron-scented air washed over him. The only hearth in Storm's End kept perpetually alive, even on nights when every other fire guttered under driving rain. Beside the anvil, coals glowed like dragon eyes. He had learned to work metal long before he discovered he was Robert Baratheon's blood. In King's Landing he'd led a simple life under the cruel tutelage of Master Mott, shaping horseshoes and helm rims for goldcloaks who paid late or not at all. Here, however, each commission carried the weight of legend. Lord Renly had once ordered tourney armor in this very space. Stannis captains had sharpened swords upon that whetstone block. Gendry often wondered whether his own hands would leave a mark upon history's ledger, or whether he remained the same bastard boy who had fled the capital with Arya Stark all those years ago. He fed the forge, coaxing sparks in measured breaths. Charcoal hissed, flames knifed upward, and shadows leapt across the rafters like startled bats. He set to work on a bundle of broken spearheads, heating each until it bloomed cherryward, then hammering imperfections flat. The rhythm soothed him. Lift, strike, turn, lift, strike, quench. Outside, thunder cracked. The sea answered with a white roar. By the time dawn's first gray blade pierced the cloud cover, he had repaired 9 points of ash and steel strong enough to pierce plate. While the last spearhead cooled, Gendry fetched a jug of watered ale and leaned against a barrel to drink. He wiped his lips with a forearm, staring at the keep's inner masonry visible through the half-open door. Something in the pattern of stone blocks snagged his attention, a jagged line between two weather-smoothed courses that ought to have aligned. He set down the jug, stepped into the courtyard, and ran thick fingers along the seam. Mortar flaked away with surprising ease. Odd, he muttered. Storm's End had stood 10,000 storms. Its walls did not simply crumble because a blacksmith poked them. He crouched, fingers searching lower, and discovered a hairline gap wide enough to admit a blade. He worked loose 3 fist-sized stones before the truth emerged. This portion of wall was no wall at all, but a cleverly disguised doorway, mortared and whitewashed until it vanished into its surroundings. Beyond yawned blackness. Gendry straightened, breath misting. The last person to find hidden passages in a lord's castle had nearly lost a hand, or worse. Yet curiosity gnawed at him. Storm's End belonged to House Baratheon, and by blood that meant it belonged in part to him. If the castle kept secrets, were they not his birthright to uncover? He ducked inside, feeling old dust brush his cheeks like cobweb silk. A narrow stairway coiled downward into bedrock. He fetched one of his newly red-hafted spears, bound a rag to the tip, and soaked it in lamp oil before striking a spark. Flame guttered alive, illuminating walls vined with trickles of salty crusted water. The deeper he descended, the more the air smelled of yesterday's rain trapped for centuries. The stair ended at a chamber so wide his torchlight reached only as far as 2 crooked pillars of fossilized coral. Stalactites dripped overhead. The floor sloped, forming a natural amphitheater that drew the eye toward a daze of carved black stone. There, half sunk in rubble, lay a massive object. Something between horn and cannon, forged from a metal that glimmered with oily rainbows in the torch's limited glow. A chill prickled Gendry's scalp. He had seen Valyrian steel before, in the pommel of a bastard sword branded Oathkeeper, gleaming red and black like frozen flame. But the substance before him seemed older than old Valyria. Older, perhaps, than men. He crossed to it, boots crunching on gravel. Up close, he realized the horn spanned near 8 feet tip to mouth, the flared end barred by 3 nested bronze rings engraved with unreadable sigils. The rim bore teeth marks, or so it seemed, small chips and scratches hinting that mighty hands had once lifted it to waiting lips. A story flickered in his memory, told by hedge knights around winter fires. The horn of Duran Godsgrief, last relic of House Durrandon, first kings of the Stormlands. Legend held that Duran stole the goddess Eleni as bride, enraging her sea god father and sky god mother. They hurled hurricane after hurricane upon his holdfasts, yet each time he rebuilt stronger than before, until at last he commissioned a castle carved in part from sea dragon bone. Some whispered that to secure peace he forged a pact, offering his unborn descendants, or perhaps the very storms themselves, in exchange for the favor of a sky-born serpent. If such a serpent had ever existed, it vanished long before Aegon's conquest, leaving behind only fables, and the horn said to summon it. Gendry circled the artifact, knelt, and brushed grit from the bronze rings. The symbols danced in flame light. Spirals nested within spirals, tiny dragons devouring their own tails, tridents striking lightning bolts. Master Mott had once shown him a Taroshi trade ring inscribed with high Valyrian glyphs. Comparing that memory to what lay before him, Gendry sensed these markings were older still, their geometry too perfect for any smith's chisel. He ran a palm along the metal's cool surface. Instantly, an image flared in his mind. A shadow twisting through towering thunderheads, wings vast as sails outlined by crackling lightning. He staggered backward and wiped sweat from his brow. Visions belonged to wargs and red priests, not to blacksmiths raised in flea bottom. Yet something here reached out to him. Blood calls to blood, Melisandre used to say in Dragonstone's caverns. Could steel know? Could whatever this was truly know the pulse beating in his wrists? He examined the mouthpiece. Its rim smooth, polished by untold use. A length of braided leather still clung to the horn's midpoint, rotted through in places. He tugged gently, half expecting the entire relic to crumble, but it held firm. An impulse rose. Lift it. Blow it. Call the sky serpent down upon Storm's End, and see which songs the bards would sing then. But another voice, older than his 19 years, counseled caution. Even King Robert's war horns had brought walls tumbling in his youth. What might this artifact unleash? Gendry set the torch in a crack of stone and searched the chamber's perimeter. He found a stone plinth bearing a cracked slate tablet, cloaked under centuries of dust. He wiped it clean. Lines of runes appeared, not Valyrian, not the angular script of the first men, but something closer to glyphs had once glimpsed on Lorothy prison tattoos. He could not read them, yet he recognized a pattern. 3 circles representing the nested rings. 3 slashes beneath, perhaps denoting trials or oblations. Finally, a horn shape accompanied by a tower topped by swirls. Riddles, he grumbled inwardly, setting the tablet carefully aside. If there were answers, they lay buried deeper. He spent the next hour exploring. He discovered narrow ventilation shafts connecting to the sea cliffs, explaining how the chamber remained nearly dry despite constant storms. He found crates filled with calcified straw, and the remains of glass vials, whose labels had long peeled away. He found pewter flagons etched with the crowned stag of House Baratheon, superimposed atop the crowned black stag of House Durrandon, a union of sigils he had never seen recorded in banners or books. Near the plinth, half buried under collapsed masonry, he uncovered a cylindrical scroll case sealed with red wax. The seal bore Renly's sigil, a prancing stag in a garland of roses. His heart pounded. How had Renly's seal found its way here? The man had died on Blackwater Rush, undone by shadows and betrayal. Gendry broke the seal. Inside, parchment remained remarkably intact, preserved by wax and stone. He unfurled the sheet with trembling hands. "Brother, if you read this, know that the storm has turned, and our line stands upon a knife's edge. I have uncovered truths Mother never dared whisper. Beneath our halls lies a relic older than the walls themselves, a horn forged of skyfire and sea bone. Grandmaster Crescent believed it superstition, yet he cautioned against sounding it, fearing tales of sky serpents bound by blood and tempest. I leave these notes concealed, for Stannis brooks no counsel that does not serve his war, and Robert drank memory from his veins long ago. Guard this secret. Should Storm's End face doom from foe or fate, let Baratheon blood decide whether to brave gods or dragons. Renly." The ink blurred under Gendry's sweat. Brother. Renly had written to Thoros? To Robert? Or to Stannis? Whoever the intended recipient, the letter remained unread. Renly's secret died with him. Until now. Gendry lowered the parchment slowly, gaze drifting to the horn. Blood decides. A bastard's blood was still blood. Yet, he could not act alone. Storm's End answered to Stannis still, though the castle held remnants of Renly's men, and rumors claimed Edric Storm, another bastard of Robert's, might return from exile soon. Even if Gendry marched the horn into the Great Hall, who would believe him? Worse, what if the Maester branded it folly, locked the relic away, and forbade further inquiry? He needed allies. His earliest friend in the keep was one Sir Harbert Trant, a gray-haired knight left lame by a Dornish spear. Harbert trained squires each dawn in the broken tower yard, his patience as enduring as the storms. Gendry respected the man's humility and sense of honor. Still, a half-crippled knight might not suffice against forces that could twist-wind itself. There was also Lady Cassana Penrose, steward of storms, and in Stannis' name. Cassana kept the ledgers and commanded the kitchens, yet she was less Baratheon loyalist than Stormlander patriot. She might share his curiosity for secrets buried beneath her feet. Gendry's thoughts leapt northward too, where rumors whispered Arya Stark still breathed, a wolf among shadows. She had once told him that history bent for those bold enough to break its spine. He smiled at the memory of her wild eyes. But Arya was leagues away, and his need was now. He extinguished the torch, slung it back through the door above, and remortared the stones with care. By the time the castle finished breakfasting on oat porridge and salt pork, he was hammering horseshoes again, mind racing. Wind howled, but could not match the roar echoing inside his skull. The horn calling. 2 days passed before he dared return. He used night's cover, carrying a satchel containing a fresh candle, flint, and a flask of Dornish red stolen from the cellars. Liquid courage. The stair greeted him with cold silence. The horn remained where he left it, its surface shimmering like oil beneath candlelight. He tested its weight. It lay half-buried, but tugging the leather thong freed it from debris with surprising ease. He braced knees, lifted, and staggered as the horn rose. Heavy, yes, yet lighter than stone of equal size. He balanced it upright to examine the bronze rings. Each fit into grooves, obviously removable. He twisted the outermost counterclockwise. It resisted, then shifted with a metallic sigh like air escaping a crypt. He replaced it quickly. Heart pounding. Not yet. He sat on a slab and uncorked the flask. The wine tasted of sweet smoke. He drank deep, wiped his mouth, and breathed steady. If the horn truly summoned a serpent of sky and storm, might not that creature devour Storm's End wholesale? Tales of dragons often ended in burned bones and salted earth. Yet legend also claimed that the first Baratheon leaders rode creatures born of thundercloud and wave spray. Was that truth or fancy? He remembered Robert on the Trident, remembered whispers of a warrior twice visited by lightning, who laughed as stag banners crackled in electric fire. Perhaps that too was rumor. But if Baratheon blood shared any kinship with Storm, then maybe the horn served as bridge between mortal and tempest, beast and banner. Gendry stood, determination settling in his bones. He could not sound the horn alone, but he could learn its nature. And for that, he needed scrolls, translators, and trust. That night, he sought Lady Cassana Penrose in her solar. A round chamber lined with tapestries depicting long-dead kings bracing against hurricanes. She was a spare woman of middle years, hair streaked silver, tallying shipments by lamplight. "Lady Cassana," he said, bowing as Renly's squires had taught him. Her quill paused. "Sir, or is it just Gendry? Titles shift these days." "Gendry suffices, my lady." She studied him over rimless spectacles. "Then speak." He described his discovery carefully, omitting nothing save the letter bearing Renly's seal. Instinct told him some secrets needed shielding still. Cassana's face remained unreadable, yet her eyes flashed with mingled fear and wonder. "You believe this horn commands storms?" she asked softly. "I don't know what I believe. Only that it lives beneath our feet, and Renly thought it grave enough to hide." "Meant shall." She set quill aside, hands folding atop ledgers. "Storm's End owes its survival to prudence as much as stone. If the old gods placed a dragon or a demon at our doorstep, we must weigh its danger before daring to lift the latch." "I need counsel," he admitted. "Maester Osgood can translate old glyphs?" Cassana frowned. "Osgood is loyal, but he is also cautious to the point of paralysis. Show him your relic, and he will bolt the chamber, post ravens to Old Town, and forbid any further meddling until Conclave grants leave. By then, Stannis might sail south and claim the horn for his red woman. Worse, the Lannisters could learn of it. Dragons serve gold as readily as storms." "Bender and Dow." Gendry's jaw tightened. "What do you suggest?" "An unofficial study." "We have a scribe, Michael Rivers, once of Summerhall, versed in half a dozen Dawn Age tongues. I shall summon him under pretext of cataloging the wine cellar. You will guide him to your chamber at midnight. Translate what you can. I will keep the guards occupied. Then I will soon. Why help me?" He could not quell suspicion. Bastards clung to it like barnacles. Cassana's gaze softened. "I served Lady Renly, Lady Margaery, when she resided here. I saw hope snuffed beneath black magic and ambition. If there is power that might shield the Stormlands from another war, I would grasp it sooner than watch our people bleed anew." Gendry nodded. Thunder bellowed beyond window shutters, as if punctuating the pact. Within 3 days, Michael Rivers crouched beside the horn, eyes widening behind soot-dark lashes. He ran slender fingers over bronze rings, lips moving in silent recitation. "This script," he whispered, "is Proto-Kiskari, older than Valyria, yet the symbols overlaid, see here, are Valyrian draconic numerals. A palimpsest." "Meaning?" Cassana prompted from the shadows. "Meaning some later hand etched new words atop older ones, perhaps to bind or focus whatever enchantment lies in the metal." Michel drew a waxed slate from his satchel and began copying sigils. "These outer rings detail price. 3 breaths, 3 lives, 3 crowns." "Crowns as in kings?" Cassana asked. "Metaphor, perhaps." Next line. "Sound thrice, break the gate of sky, summon the serpent of storms. Hark, another phrase, blood of stag shall soothe the wyrm's rage." Gendry exhaled. "Stag blood. Baratheon blood. His." Michel continued scratching notes. "The inner ring is an old tongue of the first men, but stylized. It warns, 'Let not the unworthy win win's bride, lest the bride devour bridegroom and barrow beast alike.' My guess, blow the horn without proper blood price, and you risk catastrophe." Cassana crossed arms. "What qualifies as proper blood price?" "Hard to say." Michel tapped quill to chin. "Could be literal sacrifice. Could be oath bound by lineage." Gendry swallowed. "If I blow it, maybe nothing happens. Or maybe the serpent comes and eats us." "Some prefer certainty," Cassana noted dryly. They worked until candles burned low. Gendry learned the horn's bronze rings must be removed during each sounding, stripped like veils from a bride. With every blast, a ring fell away, and only after the third did the gate of sky open. The scroll depicted a stylized tower struck by lightning, from which descended a coiled dragon. "Serpent of storms," Gendry breathed. Kasana shivered. And after the third sounding, the glyphs grow fractured, as if even the scribe feared to finish. The last line scarcely legible. Michel agreed. One word repeated, renewal or perhaps ruin. They replaced dustcloth over the horn and filed up the stair. In the corridor above, they nearly collided with Sir Harbert Trant, leaning on his cane. "Lord," he said with a curt nod to Gendry, though they both knew Gendry held no titles worth the courtesy. "Lady Kasana, Maester Osgood summons you. A raven from King's Landing." Kasana's brows knitted. "What tidings?" "Queen Mother Cersei claims Stannis is dead, lost at sea. She demands Storm's End swear fealty to King Tommen or face siege." A bitter laugh escaped Gendry. Storm's End besieged yet again. History repeating, like the tides battering these cliffs. But this time, perhaps, history offered a horn instead of hunger. Kasana met Gendry's gaze. In her eyes, he saw a decision congeal like cooling iron. "Maester Osgood will call for counsel at dawn," she murmured. "If Stannis is truly drowned, our position weakens. The Queen Mother will march her lions south at first thaw." Gendry folded arms. "Then maybe we meet lions with storms." Harbert's brow furrowed. "Storms?" he echoed. "An old tale." Kasana answered swiftly. "Rest easy, Sir Harbert. We shall weather Queen and winter both." But Harbert's gaze followed Gendry, curiosity alive. Snow began to fall in the Reach by mid-month, unheard of so far south. Maesters blamed shattered climate born of dragonfire at Winterfell. Others invoked omens. At Storm's End, wind found new teeth. Ships bearing Cersei's banners moored off Tarth, and ravens predicted Lannister forces massing near Bitterbridge. Edric Storm sailed from Lys at word of Stannis' death, eager to rally Stormlanders against Lannister yoke, but weather pinned his galley at Shipbreaker Bay. When word reached Gendry of his half-brother's arrival, he donned a leather jerkin and hurried to the gatehouse. Edric dismounted amid drizzling sleet, cloaked in wolf pelts dyed storm blue, chin sprouting first whiskers of manhood. He greeted the guards warmly, then turned eyes of clear green toward Gendry. "You must be the other one," he said, half-smile forming. "I heard we share a father. A fat king with a fondness for bastards." Gendry offered a handshake, Heidi glove to glove. Gendry, blacksmith. Edric, traveler, scholar, would-be liberator. He winked. "Also thief of ship. I've no permission to sail." Gendry liked him immediately. They sought warmth by the forge where Gendry hammered iron to hide nerves. Edric sipped mulled wine and spoke of Essos ports, of Korth merchants who sold dragon eggs boiled in pitch to gullible Pantashi. Gendry, in turn, told of the horn. Edric listened, face lit by forge glow. "A dragon horn," he mused. "Steal a queen's thunder with the serpent of sky. Poetic." "It might be madness," Gendry admitted. "Or prophecy," Edric countered. "I was raised on prophecy. Red woman claimed king's blood could wake stone dragons. She tried leeches on me." "Leeches?" He rolled a sleeve, revealing faint scars. "Better a horn than leeches." Gendry tamped coals. "Lady Kasana warns each blast costs dear." "Blood of stag," Edric quoted. "We've blood enough." His grin faltered as he added, "Though I'd rather keep it inside." Gendry retrieved Renly's letter at last, sharing the parchment's warning. Edric ran thumb over the ink. "Renly thought all of us pawns in some older game. He wrote of shadows, dragons, but he never told me of this horn. If he feared it in Stannis' hands, he feared its power." "Can we wield it?" Gendry asked. Edric's answer came not as words but in the spark of challenge igniting his eyes. They gathered at midnight within the hidden chamber. Gendry, Edric, Kasana, Michael, and Sir Harbert, who had demanded inclusion after glimpsing them creeping about like conspirators. Candles ringed the horn, their flames quivering in drafts that smelled of salt and ozone. The artifact loomed like a stranded leviathan. Gendry stepped forward. "If anyone would back out, now's the time." Kasana's jaw set. We stand or fall together. My shell produced a knife of dragon glass. Blood of stag. Edric extended his arm first. Robert gifted me little but curse and courage. I'll pay first due. My shell nicked his forearm. Edric squeezed 3 drops onto the horn's bronze. They sizzled like rain upon embers. Gendry followed, then Harbert, then Cassana, though her lineage was Florent by birth. If stag blood meant Stormlander resolve, she qualified more than most. My shell wiped blade clean. 3 crowns? He asked. The crowns we cast away, Cassana answered. She removed from a pouch a delicate circlet of mother of pearl. Renly's crown, hidden since his death. Edric placed a gilded antlerless coronet that Robert had gifted Lord Baran Swan, now deceased at the Blackwater. Gendry contributed no crown, yet from his jerkin he produced Robert's staghead helm, dented, blackened, but still regal. Not a crown, yet a symbol of kingship. They arranged the relics beneath the horn's length. Finally, Gendry reached for the outer bronze ring. He twisted. Metal groaned, the ring sliding free. A gust circled the room, candles sputtering. He braced the horn against hip, mouth at the rim. The metal tasted of salt and cold dawn. He drew breath deep into his smith's chest and blew. The sound was not a horn blast, but rather the birth cry of thunder. Low, rumbling, pulling marrow from bone into sound. Air shimmered. The chamber's stale darkness fractured into bolts of pale blue light. Wind spiraled, lifting ash and dust into miniature storms. The horn vibrated, alive in his grip. Above, stones of Storm's End quivered as if remembering the fury that forged them. Gendry lowered the horn, lungs aflame. One breath. One ring dissolved to ash at his feet. Outside, wind shrieked. Lightning spread like veins across the vault. Yet no serpent appeared. My shell steadied, toppled candles. Cassana recited a prayer to the mother. Edric clapped Gendry's shoulder. Half elation, half fear. 2 breaths remain, he murmured. Somewhere higher in the castle, bells rang. Voices echoed down corridors. Scouts shouting that a gale rose from calm skies, waves climbing cliffs unheard of in winter. Servants woke, crossing themselves. Gendry wiped sweat from brow. We wait, he gasped. Gauge Storm's strength. If castle holds, we try second blast. Hours passed, measured by crash of surf. Dawn crept gray, but no serpent came. Only clouds swirling in Cyclopean tower above. Yet sailing beacons lit Tarth Strait showed Lannister galleys dragged anchor, masts splintered by sudden squall. Word spread like wildfire. Storm's End commanded storms once more. By dusk, soldiers cheered on battlements, believing gods favored them. Cassana, however, saw further. Lions will not stay crippled, she warned. Their lioness will send more ships. We must decide soon. Continue, or hide the horn forever. Edric paced. One blast saved us a skirmish. A second might tip the war. And the third? Maisho queried, eyes shadowed. If legend holds, we summon the serpent. No knowing whether it serves or slays. Silence pooled. Harbert leaned on his cane. I've seen men gamble everything on the turn of a card. Rarely ends well when they ignore odds. Yet sometimes, fortune favors the desperate. He looked to Gendry. What says the smith who became a stag? Gendry's gaze drifted to storm-racked skyline through an arrow slit. Lightning forked over churning sea. He remembered small clothes sewn with patches, nights slept hungry in flea bottom, memories forged by hardship thicker than any hammer stroke. House Baratheon had birthed him and abandoned him to gutters. Yet now, destiny offered him a forge large as the sky. I say steel takes shape under hammer and flame, he murmured. So, too, perhaps do storms under horn and blood. We ride this tempest, or we rot beneath Lannister siege. 2 blasts remain. Let the next ring fall. No one gainsaid him. That night, they returned. The horn awaited, silent as moonlit ruin. Sailors later swore the clouds parted to reveal a single star hovering above storms, And the moment Gendry wrapped fingers around the second ring. He inhaled, lungs tasting echoes of forge smoke and sea spray, and blew again. The blast shattered silence, rising in pitch until castle windows rattled like cymbals. Stone foundations rumbled. Candles extinguished themselves. Second ring crumbled, its fragments flaring white before vanishing. Above, thunder answered not as peal but as roar, bestial, furious. Lightning struck the sea in rapid succession, coalescing into spiral luminous columns. Waves towered, then fell, but no serpent yet emerged. They stood agape as rain of sea glass droplets pattered balconies, tiny shards fused by ski fire shimmering green. Edric exhaled a laugh tinged with awe. The storm obeys. Michael corrected gently, or prepares. The keep's tower bells tolled, not by human hand, but by vibration that shook their iron clappers. Horses screamed in stables. All Storm's End woke. In the horn chamber, dust settled slowly. Gendry felt emptiness where second ring once gripped. One ring remained, gleaming. He looked at companions. Sweat beaded Edric's lip. Cassana's knuckles widened around lantern pole. Harbert braced cane, mouth a grim line. Michael fingered amulet of the smith. The third blast will bring it, Michael said. And we won't turn back lightning once loosed, Cassana added. Gendry's chest ached. 2 breaths taxed him like a day at bellows. Third might stop his heart. Legend said some horns killed blasters before final note ended. Let me blow, Edric offered. Share the burden. Gendry shook his head. Your blood is Baratheon enough, but I started this forging. I'll finish. He bent, retrieving Robert's helm. He placed it on floor before Horn, antlers catching flicker of lantern flame. A crown of sorts. Michael lifted dragonglass knife again. Deeper cut, he suggested quietly. Gendry removed glove. Blade bit palm. Blood flowed warm across calluses, dripped onto Horn's surface, tracing grooves like molten copper. He raised Horn. Muscles trembled. Remember, Cassana whispered. Storms may bow to us, yet we must guide them. Gendry blew. Sound ripped free, no note nor howl, but the raw scream of creation. Air convulsed. Chamber walls rippled like silk. Ring 3 disintegrated, scattering motes of blue fire. They clung to Horn's surface, then spiraled upward through cracks in ceiling, racing for sky. Gendry collapsed to knee, chest heaving. Edric caught him before he fell. A low hum lanced through keep's foundations. Distant thunder quieted, replaced by silence so absolute it felt like the world inhaled. Then, horizon flared. Cassana cried out, pointing through arrow slit. Beyond the Black Sea, a column of lightning rose miles high, bending slowly toward Storm's End. Within its core writhed a shape colossal. Wings? No, fins of vaporous gold beating thunder into shape. The column approached, slow, majestic, splitting clouds. Harbert whispered a prayer. The serpent emerged, coalescing from wind and water and fire. It possessed no scales but living storm, each coil forged of swirling mist, shot through with sparks. Its eyes glowed sun-white. Its maw flickered with inner stormlight. It circled Storm's End, and castle walls glowed under static charge. Every banner snapped violently. The creature opened jaws and loosed a cry deeper than thunder, a sound that plunged men to knees in awe and terror. Yet it did not strike. It hovered, as if awaiting command. Gendry forced himself upright. He raised bloody palm toward Slit. The serpent's head turned, vast as tourney grounds, and aligned with him though stone separated them. He felt its mind. A vortex of memory older than continents, of skies before men named themselves kings. It expected something. Command? Purpose? Blood alone not enough. Renly's letter whispered, "Break the gate of sky, summon the serpent. Blood of stag shall soothe." Soothe how? Song? Oath? Gendry closed eyes. He pictured Robert bellowing war shouts, pictured Renly laughing among roses, Stannis scowling beneath destiny's weight. All storms of Baratheon blood. He breathed his own heartbeat into memory and spoke aloud in voice, hoarse but sure. "We are Storm's End," he said. "We stand unbroken. Sky Serpent, hear us. Guard these halls, lash our enemies, spare our people. By blood of stag, I bind Tempest to duty." Lightning flared in Serpent's eyes. It reared, coils whipping clouds. For a heartbeat, Gendry feared rejection, but the creature bowed, dipping gargantuan head until its snout brushed very parapets. Wind died. Rain ceased. Stars winked through parting clouds. A collective exhale rippled through castle. Edric laughed through tears. Cassana pressed hand to mouth. Harbert slumped against wall. Michael's quill scratched parchment, desperate to capture miracle. Gendry sagged, drained. Serpent circled once more, then drifted seaward, settling as swirling mass upon horizon, guardian of Storm's End. The horn, spent, cooled in silent dignity. News reached King's Landing within days. Galleys dashed upon shoals, Lannister banners drowned. Queen Cersei's ravens returned water-stained or not at all. Bards in Dorne sang of a dragon of storm that bowed to a smith-king. Flea-bottom urchins whispered of bastard, made lord by lightning. Yet within Storm's End, Gendry tended forge at dawn as always. Though now, every hammer strike echoed in halls of legend. The last Sky Serpent brooded above distant waves, silent sentinel. He did not command it lightly. Storms were hammers that might shatter friend and foe alike. Edric drilled spearmen, Cassana fortified stores. Sir Harbert trained new knights. Michael transcribed every rune for posterity. Together they forged a realm where storms no longer threatened from without, but answered from within. And so, under a sky where thunder spoke in ancient tongues and lightning, drew the sigil of a crowned stag upon clouds. House Baratheon prepared to meet coming wars, not with fear, but with the roar of a horn that once woke gods, and might yet decide the fate of kingdoms. Yondendau. Wind sheathed itself around Storm's End like a living curtain, rippling over ramparts and whistling through narrow embrasures, while the serpent of storm coiled upon the empty horizon. Gendry awoke to its muted growl, an omnipresent murmur that threaded every corridor and courtyard. He lay upon his pallet in the smithy loft, the smell of quenched steel mingling with salt from the sea, and listened to the breathing of the great beast far beyond sight. At times it sounded like thunder buried deep, at others, like the sigh of bellows fanning a forge the size of the sky. It did not sleep. Storms never truly slept, but in those quiet hours before dawn, it seemed to doze, dreamlike, its consciousness lapping against his own. He rose, shoulders stiff from the horn's final blast, and shrugged into a wool tunic torn at the elbows. The loft ladder creaked under his weight. Embers still glowed in the forge, and he stoked them on instinct, though no commission waited. Crafting calmed him. It gave pattern to chaos. Yet when he lifted hammer and blank billet, the metal felt wrong. Too small, too tame after commanding tempests. He set tools aside and stepped into the courtyard. The sky pulsed with indigo wave bands, lightning flickering like distant candle flame beneath the serpent's scales of mist. It hovered leagues away, but its presence loomed larger than any dragon of flesh and bone. Soldiers on the walls had grown accustomed to the sight. Some prayed to it, others averted eyes. No one openly defied the smith who called storms, and that troubled Gendry more than he cared to admit. Lady Cassana found him by the well, arms folded tight against dawn-cool air. Her eyes, ordinarily hawk-keen, looked rimmed with sleepless worry. "The serpent has drifted north," she said without preamble. "Our lookouts spotted at varying bearings each watch. It seems to patrol the stormlands." "That was our oath," Gendry replied. "Guard rather than destroy." But patrols can stray. We require a way to recall it should it wander beyond hearing." His gaze slid to the repaired wall hiding the stair. "The horn is silent now, rings destroyed. Perhaps not entirely silent." She mused. "Michelle believes residual power remains, though unfocused. A craftsman might fashion new wards, lesser rings to amplify a single note, A shepherd's call rather than a summons of cataclysm. Men wonder. Gendry exhaled a laugh without mirth. You'd trust my tempering more than the glyphs of gods. I trust necessity, she answered, then offered a folded letter. The wax bore a dire wolf rampant. From the north? He asked. From the riverlands, carried by outrider. A stark outrider. He cracked the seal. Ink smelled freshly set despite a week's ride. Gendry, I heard a storm roared for you. I trust you did not go deaf, though perhaps everyone else did. I march south soon. The Lannisters tighten coin purses, but not yet gauntlets. They fear winter and whispers. If you hold Storm's End, I'll hold your anvil when next you strike. Keep the serpent fed. Wolves like thunder at their backs. Arya. His chest warmed. Memories of mud, cages, and a girl with burning eyes flickered. He folded the letter carefully, tucking it into his belt. Stark reinforcements would hearten the men, Kasana said. But their road is long. In the meantime, our scouts report Lannister messengers at Bitterbridge, hiring Stormlander turncloaks. They promise gold enough to buy entire fishing villages. Then she. Gold can't stop lightning, Gendry muttered. Perhaps. Yet gold can raise siege engines or bribe captains to guide fleets through hidden shoals. And there are rumors the Queen Mother seeks a horn of her own, some Valyrian relic dredged from the ruins of old Volantis. The thought settled like lead. Opposing horns, clashing storms. The realm would shatter. Kasana touched his arm. Come to council. We plan provisions for a year's siege. Your voice carries weight now. He grimaced. My hammer carries weight, my voice cracks. Then lend the hammer to words, she said, and strode off. Morning cloak billowing. The great hall of Storm's End was a cavernous cylinder, banners spiraling upward like colored gusts trapped by masonry. At its center, a long oaken table bore parchment maps pinned by daggers. Edric Storm leaned over one, candlelight limning his jaw. Sir Harbert Trant, armor polished bright despite his limp, traced roadways with a gloved finger. Myshael Rivers hunched beside a stack of folios, muttering translations. When Gendry entered, murmurs hushed. Edric straightened and offered a grin. Master of Storms, you honor us, he quipped. Spare me titles, Gendry replied. The warmth tugged at his mouth. He accepted a wooden mug of small ale and listened. Harbert outlined enemy movement. 2,000 Lannister men-at-arms, marching from King's Landing under Lord Mathis Rowan's command, bolstered by Sellsword companies and siege engineers. They aimed to rendezvous with elements of the Redwine fleet sailing from Old Town. Their arrival at Storm's End could come within a month, weather permitting. Weapons we can forge, Harbert said, but manpower we lack. What of Tarth? Edric asked. Lord Selwyn owes Baratheon loyalty. Selwyn is besieged by pirates emboldened by Lannister coin, Harbert replied. He cannot spare men. Gendry studied the map. We hold Castle and Serpent. They hold numbers and ships. They'll blockade first. Starve us, Kasana nodded. Hence my push to secure provisions. But there is more. Last night, fisherfolk spied a flotilla of black sails hugging the coast, sigil unknown. They vanished at dawn. Greyjoys, Edric ventured. If the Krakens come south, the realm truly sinks. Harbert muttered. Myshael tapped parchment. The black sails bore no crowned kraken. An eyewitness described a sigil of twisted horns. Gendry's skin prickled. Horns, like the relic they possessed? Could be pirate banner, Kasana allowed. Yet timing unnerves. Edric paced. We cannot defend coast against every skiff. The Serpent might deter fleets, but we dare not call storms daily. Villagers suffer when waves swallow docks. Silence spread until Gendry spoke. Then we move beyond defense. We forge an alliance stronger than castles. People. Stormlanders hold deep loyalty to Baratheon name. If we march village to village, show them we command storms yet spare fisher nets, they'll rally. They'll feed us willingly. Danai. Harbert arched brow. March with what army? Not an army, Gendry said. A procession. Baratheon bastards side by side. Edric and I ride, serpent hovering overhead as guardian sign. Farmers will see hope, not tax collectors. Cassana considered. Risky. If Lannisters ambush you. They won't, Edric cut in. They'd fear serpent retaliation. Still, we must take caution. Thine? Michel added. And in your absence the castle must hold. I propose we craft smaller horns as you suggested, Lady Cassana. Shepherd's calls. Gendry rubbed chin. I can attempt. Each would need alloy with trace of original metal. I can shave filings from the relic. You would defile it? Harbert asked. Not defile, refine. Gendry answered. A smith knows the billet must be split to forge a sword. Decision crystallized. They split tasks. Michel oversaw inscription research. Cassana rationed stores. Harbert drilled archers. Edric organized a mounted escort of 50 seasoned riders. Gendry retired to the hidden chamber with hammer and chisel. The horn lay dormant. Surface darkened pewter sheen. Touching it, he sensed but a whisper of the vast current once crackling within. He bowed thanks for its service, then set chisel against underside ridge where marks would not mar beauty. Shavings curled like slivers of moonlight into a clay bowl. He mixed the filings with copper and a thread of silver, heating crucible until alloy flowed. The forge roared. Sparks burst bright teal, the serpent's hue. He cast the molten mix into a tapered mold, quenched it in brine, then reheated and hammered until it rang a clear bright note. Over 2 nights he fashioned 3 short horns, each small enough to sling from saddle, but strong enough to carry a blast across valleys. Michel etched runes. Direction, calm, return. Not summon. Even this lesser power felt volatile, and Gendry feared what might occur if note misblown. Still, completion stirred pride. He presented one to Cassana, one to Harbert, kept third for himself. The original horn he sheathed in new bronze cradle, and sealed within chamber once more. Departing Storm's End proved more ceremony than Gendry desired. Trumpets heralded dawn. Banners of crowned stag fluttered beside hastily sewn devices, representing a gray sailing ship and a hammer crossed with lightning. Edric's and Gendry's blended symbols, though he had approved none of it. Children hurled petals as horsemen filed through gatehouse. Castle battlements thronged with onlookers shouting blessings to the Storm Brothers. The sky serpent drifted overhead, silent titan half-shrouded by cirrus wisps, a quiver with electric pulse. Edric rode a chestnut courser, hair tousled by sea breeze, grin wide. Gendry mounted a destrier taller than any forge anvil, less comfortable in saddle, but resolute. They wore mail shirts under thick leather, no plate. Mobility over grandeur. 50 riders followed. Stormlander squires, Penrose men-at-arms, a handful of smuggler rogues who owed their freedom to Cassana's pardons. Michel accompanied on mule. Scroll cases rattling. They took coastal road first, passing fishing hamlets perched like sea scrapes along cliffs. At each village horns signaled arrival, 3 short blasts from Gendry's shepherd horn. The serpent, sensing call, banked overhead, trailing crackling vapor ribbons. Villagers knelt or gaped, and women pressed round loaves and smoked eels upon riders. Edric spoke of unity, of rising storms that would dash any tyrant, and of fair trade for supplies. They left silver coins in church boxes, mended nets with spare twine, and paid songs for ale in taverns. Morale bloomed. After 7 days, they reached Fellwood, seat of House Errol. Lord John Errol, hailed despite 60 winters, met them beneath a moss-hung oak. Gold cloak trimmed his shoulders, but he wore no sword. Bend the knee to Baratheon blood, he intoned, voice resonant. Or fly the field and hide behind Lannister coin. Those were my choices, as Cersei's raven declared. You present third path, loyalty to storms, I prefer tempests native to these shores." He knelt before Gendry and Edric. Cheers erupted. Lord Errol pledged 500 men and cargoes of barley. That night they feasted in Fellwood's hall. Gendry drank sparingly, mindful of Robert's fate. Michael read passages from Dawn Age prophecy linking serpents of wind to children of thunder. The horn glimmered at Gendry's hip. Later, alone on balcony, he watched the serpent coil around Half Moon. Edric joined, silent until wind died. "Do you feel it?" Edric asked. "The bond?" "Yes. Like an iron chain from heart to sky. I feared it might pull me aloft." Gendry chuckled. "We're smith and sailor. Our feet remember earth." "Sailor? I can barely tie a reef knot," Edric admitted. "But I'll learn. When war ends, we might sail beyond Valyria. See if sea serpents envy ours." "Bender." Gendry leaned on stone parapet. "If war ends." "It will," Edric said. "Wolves come south, dragons rise in east. Storms rule the middle. Realm can't survive such fury." "Something must break, then mend anew." Gendry swallowed. "And if we break with it?" Edric clapped his back. "Then we break, but we'll hammer the pieces into better shape." The campaign gained pace. At Harvest Hall, Lady Ermison Caron declared for storms upon tasting thunder-kissed rain that the serpent guided to her drought-struck orchards. At Nightsong, Sir Hubard Morrigan attempted to seize Edric in hopes of ransom, only for the serpent to descend and obliterate Morrigan's watchtower with a single bolt, leaving no casualties, just cinders and a shaking lord quick to bend knee. Word traveled faster than hoofbeats. Stormlander levies rallied. Blacksmiths in small villages forged arrowheads day and night, citing Gendry's example. Penniless cousins of Baratheon lineage emerged from woodlands to claim kinship. By the new moon, Gendry and Edric commanded 1,500 men, enough to harry Lannister vanguards. But success birthed ire. A hooded rider arrived at their camp outside Mistwood one starlit eve, escorted by Tarthian scouts. She dismounted and pushed back hood to reveal red hair and a scar trailing cheekbone to jaw. "Brienne of Tarth." She bowed. "Sir Gendry, Lord Edric." Gendry blinked. "I'm no sir. Honorific suits deeds," she replied. "I come bearing warning. A fleet of 60 ships bearing the Golden Lion and a black sigil unknown sails for Shipbreaker Bay. They mean to strike Storm's End while you ride inland." "Black sigil with horns?" Gendry asked. Brienne nodded. "A crown of twisted horns encircling a crimson sun." Edric cursed softly. "And we left Cassana with but 300 men." "Worse," Brienne added. "They carry siege engines rumored wrought with wildfire." Michelle, listening, blanched. "Wildfire brews storms we cannot steer." Gendry's mind raced. The serpent patrolled overhead but could not be everywhere at once. Horn's shepherd note might redirect, but they were days' ride from Castle. Cassana possessed her own shepherd horn. She might call, but with siege underway, time mattered. Brienne continued. "I can guide you through mountain passes. 2 days' march saved. If we ride light." Gendry scanned assembled men. Many lacked horses. "We take the vanguard," Edric said. "Cavalry only. Lady Brienne guides. The rest follow with Harbord on forced march." Harbord inclined head. "Lances will ride like wind." Gendry braced, serpent horn to lips. 3 blasts rippled skyward, instructing Guardian to reconnoiter coast. Lightning flickered east. Serpent changed course, streaming towards Storm's End. The ride tested endurance. Brienne led across goat trails skirting chasms where waterfalls fell into mist. Gendry's muscles screamed, but memory of flea-bottom hunger spurred him. Edric sang bawdy sailor shanties to set rhythm. Knights joined chorus, though lungs burned. On dawn of second day, they reached ridge overlooking Shipbreaker Bay Dawat. Storm's End rose proud, yet flames licked its base. Wildfire catapult shots painting green arcs across sky. Ziga towers rolled forward. Dozens of Blackhorn banners whipped in gale. The Lannister allied fleet ringed bay, launching bolts of Greek fire. Yet thunderheads gathered. Serpent storm massed above castle, hurling lightning that shattered masts, boiling surf. Still, attackers pressed. Flame met water, met lightning, in cacophony. Gendry's force numbered only 200 horse. Yet, surprise remained. He lifted shepherd horn, carved to call storms to ground. Sound burst across cliffs. Serpent wheeled, sensing, then streaked toward ridge, lightning trailing. Air tasted of tin and ozone. Edric brandished sword. Ride, Storm Brothers. They thundered downhill into rear of siege lines. Lannister engineers, focused on ramming gates, never saw death descend. Cavalry smashed through wagons. Gendry wielded Smith's hammer and stirrup, shattering helm after helm. Above them, Serpent's coil dipped into wildfire-laden catapults. Static ignited barrels prematurely, erupting green fire among enemy ranks. Chaos bloomed. The sea boiled as Serpent lashed water into towering spouts, capsizing ships. Yet wildfire explosions hurled flames in every direction. One plume engulfed cavalry flank. Horses screamed, knights tumbled ablaze. Gendry's heart pounded. Control teetered. He blew horn thrice, repeating calm glyph. Serpent slowed strikes, focusing lightning on wildfire caches beyond friend lines. He forged path to castle gate, where Cassana herself stood atop battlements, crossbow in hand. Recognition sparked. Winches groaned, gate creaked. Riders streamed into courtyard while archers rained arrows behind. Harbert's levies arrived by dusk, and battle tilted. Lannister commander, a knight in Blackhorn, sigil cloak, sounded retreat, but cliffs and storm left no path. Surrender followed. Survivors shackled. In sick tents, Gendry moved among wounded, wrapping burns, binding fractures. Blackened armor smelled of pitch. Screams rent air until Maester Osgood's milk of poppy quieted them. He found Brienne sewing cut on Edric's thigh while cursing her clumsy stitching. Edric's laughter rang, resilient. Cassana met Gendry near the wall breach. Rain steamed where wildfire residue still smoldered. "Victory," she said, voice hoarse. "8 cost." He surveyed corpses. "All victories cost," she replied. "Better ours than theirs." He could not argue. Yet guilt gnawed. Serpent's raw power killed as indiscriminately as wildfire. A tool of gods, not men. Could Horn ever tame it fully? Night brought uneasy calm. Prisoners huddled in ruined granary under guard. Gendry approached the banner of horns, curious. The captured commander knelt, wrists bound, olive skin soot-streaked. She lifted chin to reveal keen green eyes. "I am Captain Arana San," she declared in lilting accent of lice. "My fleet hired by Lannisters under contract of gold. You owe ransom. Fires you launched charred our people," Gendry said. "A contract is a contract," she answered without fear. "Kill me and the Seni Brotherhood will answer in blood. Offer parole and we sail away, never again against Storm's End." Edric joined, limping. "Why the horn sigil?" Arana shrugged. "Client insisted. Hinted at some prophecy. I care only for coin." "Ironically," Edric said, "your horns lured the wrong storm." Arana smirked. "Payment is due." They debated. Many urged execution, others caution. Michelle pointed out, enemy of enemy may become ally. Gendry weighed options. He offered terms. "You sail under Stag banner henceforth. Show the realm Serpent does not stand alone. Storm's End will pay half Lannister promised, in grain and timber for repairs. Violet pact. Serpent sinks your hulls." "And so," Arana laughed, "a storm for a shield, a smith for a king." "I accept." She sealed oath upon shard of windshield glass, fused by lightning, a makeshift token. Weeks passed. Ruins mended. Serpent maidens, Young girls who claimed guardian blessings swept ash from courtyards, singing ballads newly written. Black horn banners reversed colors and stitched crowned stags central. Arrana sailors assisted fishermen, earning wary trust. But Lannisters would not relent. Ravens spoke of Queen Cersei's descent into paranoia, visions of storms devouring capital. She sought counsel of alchemists to craft storm cages against lightning. Worse, word spread of Euron Greyjoy wielding a horn of his own, binding krakens and dragonfire. Realm trembled. In council, Michael unrolled fresh parchment. Reports from Korth vessels speak of horizon-wide darkness moving west. They name it Ashen Gale, wind that drowns cities in black rain. Descriptions mirror our serpent, but twisted, as though corrupted. Cassana frowned. Perhaps Greyjoy's doing. Harbert crossed arms. Serpent versus Kraken storm. Sea will boil off realm. Edric tapped table. We bolster alliances. Send missives to Starks, Tullys, even Martells. Offer Storm's shield for joint cause. Brienne advised caution. Many still blame Baratheons for wars. They'll demand proof of our mercy. Gendry voiced quiet resolution. Then we show mercy. Rebuild villages outside Storm's End. Feed refugees from any banner. Serpent will deliver rainfall to drought, lightning to fertilize fields. Alleys built on bread, not fear. Cassana agreed. That season they enacted Storm's charity. Arrana sailed barley south to Starfall where famine lingered. Serpent drew rains north to shield riverlands from wildfire-ignited blazes. Bard's verses praised storms that healed as well as harmed. Gendry oversaw forging of plows from melted siege blades. But storms cannot quell all greed. Euron struck at Arbor with warhorn that howled gull shriek and drowned fleet in maelstrom. Survivors whispered of black serpent made of oily smoke. Ashen Gale neared stepstones. Council met under strain. Michael's studies revealed inscription on original horn they had missed, a clause stating serpent bound until a darker twin born of sea and shadow awakens. Only through merging their howls might balance restore. Twin horns, he concluded. Opposing storms doomed to clash. Gendry felt chill. The forging of rings, the blasts. Had they triggered chain reaction summoning mirror? If so, responsibility lay on his shoulders. Edric placed hand on Gendry's. We face storm we forged. We end it. Men now. Plan formed. Meet Euron at sea, horns in hand, serpent at flank, Arrana's fleet sailing under storm banners. Cassana prepared Storm's End for potential backlash. Harbert mustered cavalry inland to guard refugees. Brienne drilled sword sisters. Michael finished translating final stanzas. When twin storms entwine, world remade in silence after thunder. Departure dawned bright. Gendry wore ringless horn across back. Shepherd horn at belt. Edric carried Renly's crown upon breastplate as emblem of hope. Arrana's flagship, Sea Viper, cut waves, sails dyed blue-gray to blend with cloud. Brienne commanded the rampart. Cassana stayed ashore commanding scryers. The serpent glided overhead, reflection turning sea silver. Fishermen along coast knelt at its passage. On third day, black clouds crawled from east, heralding ashen gale. The water beneath churned as though stirred by Leviathan. Euron's fleet emerged, jagged longships strung with flayed sails. Atop Silence's prow he stood, patch over one eye, the other shining mad blue. In his hands, horn of twisted black coral banded in rings of red gold etched with screaming faces. He blew. Sound like whale song corrupted by nails on slate rippled. Sea, writhed. Out of waves rose twin to serpent. Same size, but forged of ink and cinder, eyes glowing sickly green. Lightning sputtered dark, flashes swallowing light instead of giving it. Air smelled of rot. Gendry answered, raising shepherd horn, blasting note of calm. His serpent circled, roaring pure thunder. Winds collided. Ships pitched violently. Arana sailors fastened lines. Brienne barked orders over Howl. Gendry brought ringless horn to lips. Though spent, it thrummed faint. He blew. Note emerged, low and resonant, filled with sorrow of waves upon ancient shore. The calm note spread. Pure serpent paused, as if inhaling him. Shadow serpents shrieked, thrashing cloud into spears of hail. Euron laughed across water, voice carried by unnatural gusts. Your toy is broken, bastard king. Mine bears rings intact. Edric drew sword, its blade catching scatter lightning. Two horns born of chaos. One realm too small, he shouted. Gendry realized truth. The rings he shattered had bound serpent to his will, but also restrained its full power. Shadow serpent remained bound by intact rings. Euron alone steered. To free pure serpent, they must refashion rings from Heart of Storm, forging anew mid-battle. Impossible, unless storm itself became forge. He closed eyes, sensing chain between heart and sky thinning, near breaking. He whispered to serpent, "Offer your fire, I offer mine." Thunder answered in pulse across veins. He opened eyes ablaze with electric blue. He tossed horn to Edric. "Hold line." Then he leapt across deck, arms outstretched to rain. Lightning struck mast, arced into him. Pain seared, yet he remained standing, hammer calluses grounding current. He envisioned 3 new rings: duty, mercy, resolve. Storm's plasma spiraled, encircling serpent's girth in bands of white fire. They fused, sealing wound left by shattered bronze. Energy flowed back through him, knitting into heart. Pure serpent roared, mane of light flaring. It dove, coiling around shadow twin. 2 titans wrestled, whirlpools churning. Euron blew horn frantically. Rings on his relic glowed red, cracked, shattered. Shadow serpent convulsed, losing coherence, dissolving into ink-black rain. Silence's mast exploded. Euron staggered. Horn molten in hands. Pure serpent surged upward, drew energy, then exhaled bolt that split sea. Silence capsized. Waves swallowed it whole. Where Euron vanished, whirlpool sucked black serpent remnants, sealing fissure. Battle ceased. Arana's men cheered, yet storm raged still. Gendry collapsed. Spent. Edric caught him. Daylight pierced clouds. Serpent ascended, shedding last lightning. It did not hover but drifted higher, unraveling into ribbons of cloud, dispersing across sky like dawn-lit cirrus. Horn at Edric's side cooled to ordinary metal. Power gone, duty fulfilled. Gendry awoke hours later in cabin, chest tightly bandaged, hair singed. Edric sat nearby, sword propped. "It's gone," Gendry croaked. "The serpent returned to sky," Edric said. "Balance restored," Michael claims. "We possess no storm now." Gendry felt emptiness yet relief. "Good." Arana knocked, entered. Storm or no, realm saw who broke Euron. Lannisters will sue for truce. Queen Cersei removed. Coup in capital by small council. They call for great council at Old Town to rebuild peace. Gendry attempted to rise. Edric pressed him back gently. "Rest," Edric ordered. "Council can wait until you can lift hammer again." "Never thought hammer would shape clouds," Gendry whispered. "It shaped fates," Edric said. "Now we forge realm in its wake." Months rolled. Stormlands rebuilt. Great Council declared monarchy elective until Dragon Queen's heirs debated. Storm's End held seat for House Baratheon again. Edric named Lord Paramount. Gendry declined lordship, becoming Master of Forges for Realm, answerable only to Council. Arya Stark arrived one dusky evening, mud-caked and smiling dangerous. She found Gendry at Forge, working plain plowshare. She leaned against doorway. "Heard you played horn louder than mine," she teased. He wiped sweat. "Couldn't find you to share duet." She strode forward, kissed soot from his cheek. "I have my own storms," she murmured, "but maybe we braid them." He laughed. Heartbeat steadier than thunder. Beyond walls, Farmers tilled lightning-sweet soil. Wildfire weeds bloomed star-white in fields, sign of serpents passing. Children reenacted storm duel with driftwood horns. And though the sky remained sky, empty of coiled titans, every rumble of distant thunder reminded realm that once a bastard smith lifted heaven's forge and dared reshape it. Gendry kept horns, broken, shepherd, and ringless, in a small cedar chest. He polished them only on anniversaries of storm's peace, then replaced lid gently, whispering oath of duty, mercy, resolve. For storms may fade, but metal remembers fire, and men who bear scars of lightning know that even when the sky grows still, the forge of fate forever waits for hands unafraid to lift the hammer. Ka. Bai. The spring of the dragonless sky came in softly, as though the world feared to disturb the hush left after warring storms. Dawn light spilled pale gold across the stormlands, dusting the ragged cliffs and the rebuilt watchtowers with mercy rather than judgment. For the first time in living memory, Storm's End rose against calm seas. No black clouds clustered at its flanks, no static crackle twitching beneath every banner. Yet within the fortress the pulse of change throbbed louder than any gale. Gendry Baratheon stood at the highest parapet, leaning against sun-warmed stone and watching workers crane a timber girder into place atop the half-finished rookery. The mason's chant floated upward. Steady grunts, the clack of mallet on chisel, the creak of rope, and folded into the gull cries circling overhead. From here he saw the thin track of shoreline char where wildfire siege rounds had struck months earlier. New grass already pushed green shoots through the ash, defiant. Below, in the bailey, Brienne of Tarth swung a practice blade against a pair of young hedge knights and corrected their stances with patient taps. Somewhere near the stables harbored Trance booming laughter coaxed timid recruits into saddle. And at the forge, untouched since sunrise, a single billet of red-hot steel waited on the anvil, glowing like a captured ember from the old sky serpent itself. He could not muster the will to bring hammer down. The great council in Old Town loomed only 6 days away. Southrons, Northmen, and River Lords expected House Baratheon's delegation to ride west along the Roserad tomorrow, with a retinue large enough to demonstrate rank yet disciplined enough to reassure allies. Edric had practiced his speech since midnight, pacing the solar until candle stubs guttered, while Cassana drafted grain relief promises for any port still starving from blockade. Michel prepared scrolls of new law revisions. Arana San wrangled Lyseni crewmen into wearing sashes instead of daggers at council tables. Everything lay ready, except Gendry's heart. He exhaled, tasting salt on wind that no longer crackled with lightning. The serpent had dispersed after the duel with Euron, its last coils unraveling into dawn like a final breath. Its absence left the sky ordinary and unthreatening, but he missed the subtle pressure it had pressed behind his eyes. Proof, however burdensome, that something vast and mythic had accepted his call. Without it, he felt the sudden smallness of a smith, about to stand among kings and maesters to argue about crowns. Footsteps approached. Arya Stark's reflection flickered against stone before she appeared, gray cloak pressed tight by breeze. She carried no weapons today, which sat strangely on her frame, as though the spaces beside her hips ached for steel. "Brooding?" she asked, voice half tease, half test. "Sharpening thoughts," he answered. "No point sharpening what flies blunt out your mouth," she replied, but the smile softened her jab. She stepped beside him. "I watched the foals you shod last week. They run like arrows." "Smith's blessing?" "Balanced hooves and lighter steel," he said. "Same trick we used on the serpent's rings. Weight where needed, nothing extra." "Use that in Old Town," she advised. "Say less, aim true." He traced fingertip along battlement. "Died? What if they ask questions I can't answer? What if they want horns and dragons and miracles, and all I can offer is iron?" Arya's brow creased. "Iron built these walls, bent into each horseshoe we ride, holds every sword that kept winter at bay. Iron is miracle, idiot." He barked a laugh. "When you put it that way." She shifted, brows knitting. I came for more than pep talk. She reached into cloak and produced a folded scrap bearing the direwolf seal, smaller than her palm. Raven from Sansa. There's rumor of a faction in Old Town bent on restoring Targaryen blood. They have proof Daenerys left an heir hidden east. Dragon heir? He echoed. She says, allies to Storms may look with suspicion at a smith who once slew Storms. Gendry pondered. If they fear another horn in our hands, we must show them the horns rest sealed. Arya nodded. And ourselves too, tempered, not blazing. A distant horn blast echoed from the outer gate. 2 short notes, request to convene. The muster for departure had begun. Arya tapped his breastbone lightly. Steady is not the same as silent. Speak when it matters. He caught her wrist before she pulled away. You'll ride with Vanguard? She shrugged. Someone must keep your head from wandering off your shoulders. Then I'll try not to lose it. He released her, and together they descended spiral stairs toward courtyard bustle. By high sun the procession formed outside Storm's End. 300 cavalry, double that on foot, plus 24 wagons carrying documents, gifts, and barrels of storm wine to curry Reach Lord's favor. Edric rode at head beneath new banner, crowned stag offset by subtle lightning bolt woven in silver thread. Gendry refused a heraldic device for himself, wearing plain black leather and a yellow cloak Cassana insisted brightened his smith's shoulders. Michelle clutched satchel of scrolls on a placid mule. Arana wore Lyseni silk beneath mail, a cutlass wound with sea-green ribbon. Harbert, though old wounds reacted to damp, mounted and joked that any council daring to run late would face his cane. When the gates opened, farmers who had once cowered from sky serpent now lined roadways. They carried sheaves of late spring wheat, sprigs of blooming gorse, and sun-baked loaves. Children chased the line, chanting Stormbrother rhymes. Gendry felt flush heat under rough collar, uncertain where to look. He managed a nod and mild wave, though Edric greeted each cluster by name and asked after ailing cattle or roof beams. Arya rasped that Edric was half septa, half bard. Gendry replied at least no one expected him to sing. They made camp near Fellwood that night, in the same meadow where once thunder-touched rain healed drought. Moon hung bright, watchfires cast long shadows. Gendry walked perimeter, inspecting pickets, not trusting peace to last. Away from glow, he found Arya balanced atop a fallen log, moving through sword forms with slender stick. Her silhouette flowed like water. You should sleep, he said. I do when I'm dead, she answered, finishing final flourish. She dropped from log. Remember Brotherhood tunnels under King's Landing? I dream of them. Stone mouths swallowing streets. Council halls feel the same, echoes that hide knives. He studied her. You don't trust easy. She tilted head. Not trusting kept me alive. Will you ever feel safe? Arya looked past him to tents where Edric's snores rolled. Safe's a story you tell children. Grown folk choose which danger to walk beside. She met his eyes. I chose one who swings hammers at storms. He felt warmth spread though night air bit chill. Then I'll keep swinging. Lightning flickered faint on distant horizon. Ordinary storm, not serpent. Arya sheathed stick. I'll keep watch second half. Go sleep, Smith. He obeyed. The rosewood curled through the reach like a jeweled ribbon, flanked by vineyards flush with first buds and fields where small folk bent over sprouting barley. The air smelled of tilled earth and fermenting must. Gendry rode near Vanguard, conscious of stares from lords who passed traveling same way. Serwyn men trailed wolf banners. Blackwoods escorted wagons full of carved weirwood gifts. Prince Quentin Martell headed slim column of Dornish spears. All scanned him with curiosity. Some awe, some suspicion. Not one asked to see the horn, its legend sufficed. Old Town's marble spires rose after midday of the 5th March, gleaming a long whispering sound. The high tower, tallest in Westeros, cast shadow across honey-colored quays swarming with merchants. Bells tolled from Citadel, each ring announcing arriving delegations. Their caravan funneled into queue behind Tyrell wagons, laden with golden roses. Gossip drifted. Maester Walgrave died morning they left Storm's End. Archmaesters squabbled over new conclave slate. Mysterious hooded monks from Korth petitioned entry. Kasana rode forward to negotiate berth for their party at Stormden Hall, a modest manor outside city walls reserved for Stormlander envoys. Once stabled, Gendry's first instinct was to locate a forge, any forge, and drown nerves in iron. But duties beckoned. A steward delivered scroll of schedule, welcoming feast in Starry Sept tomorrow night. Great council opening the dawn after in conclave chamber. Minor caucuses all day. Evening air tasted of maize stew and seaweed from docks. Arya disappeared to scout. Michael buried nose in library ledgers. Edric practiced courtesy bows before mirror. Gendry donned dark doublet Kasana demanded, and followed her into warren of lantern-lit alleys, to meet with trading factors. He nodded through talk of tariffs, feigned interest in cask samples. Some merchants pressed him for promise to marshal storms against Stepstone pirate raids. He answered evasively, claiming storms obeyed no schedule. A truth, albeit partial. Near midnight, returning to manor, he turned corner and collided with slender youth wrapped in striped cloak. The figure stumbled, then righted. Eyes wide. Violet eyes. Gendry froze. Targaryen eyes, some whispered. The youth dipped head. Pardon, lord. Voice soft, accent-free city. He vanished into darkness before Gendry voiced reply. Unease settled. Rumor of hidden air stirred back. He reached Manor Gate, where guards hailed him. Arya emerged from shadows, wiping dagger. Why blade, he asked. Rats, she said. Two-legged. One fled. Striped cloak with silver hair? She nodded. Shadowbinder's colors, Ashai trade. Likely spy. He relayed violet eyes. Arya's lips thinned. Dragon dreams ride on such eyes. Keep helm near. He touched hammer haft at belt. Always. Feast in Starry Septi proved labyrinthine. Candle brilliance bounced off spiral-carved pillars, while minstrels plucked harps. Lords glittered. Reach maidens wore wreaths of apple blossoms. Archmaesters displayed jangling collars. Gendry endured introductions, repeating vow that storms served peace. Several Northmen greeted him kindly, citing debt for holdfast reins he diverted. A Manderly envoy pressed salt-crusted horn mug into his hands. Others sneered, particularly within Tyrell retinue. Lord Garland whispered that storms too eager might flatten orchards. Wine blurred evening. When processional ended, and Sept put out candles, Edric found Gendry leaning against marble Saint Dodar. You look carved yourself, Edric joked. I'd rather hammer stone than speak to it, Gendry muttered. Edric smirked. Tomorrow we speak for realm, not ourselves. Pretend council is forge. Heat, shape, quench. Gendry managed a nod. Back at Stormden Hall. He removed doublet. Rubbed aching neck. He unlatched cedar chest on bedside table, revealing horns nested in cloth. Shepherd horn, and broken ring fragments. He traced fissured bronze, felt faint echo like distant surf. Dormant. Whined. A soft rap came. Arya slid inside, hair damp from washwater. Everything quiet? He asked. Quieter than you. She noticed chest. Talking to relics. Listening, he answered. She stepped nearer. Hear anything? Only my pulse. He closed lid and latched. Tomorrow I tell Maester's horns are done, but part of me still listens, as if expecting Serpent's voice. Arya's gaze softened. First time I slept in Winterfell after years away, I listened for howling of dire wolves in Godswood. Even when no wolves remained. Ghost howls follow you. He met her eyes. Will ghosts guide us or haunt? Depends if we let them bite. She touched his wrist. Sleep. Dawn's close. He caught her hand, squeezed gently. Stay? She considered, half-smile curling. I've seen enough ghosts alone. She extinguished candle. Moonlight silvered room. They lay fully clothed atop coverlet, shoulders brushing. Within steady breath, tension eased. Sleep claimed them as city bells chimed third watch. Great council convened in conclave amphitheater. A bowl of carved stone seating, 500. Sunlight spilled through circular oculus, highlighting dust motes floating like lost snow. At dais, High Septon stood beneath Marble 7, flanked by Lord Willis Tyrell and Lord Davos Seaworth. Chosen moderators. Murmurs rippled. Free City's envoys perched rear benches. Ironborn absent, no surprise after Euron's defeat. Dornish spears lined aisle, silent. Agenda unrolled. Address of Regency after demise of Queen Regent Cersei. Election of Steward of Realm. Till Dragon succession resolved. Ratification of Port's charter. Relief funds. Gendry's pulse hammered. His seat lay among Stormlander block. Front quarter Tartary. Edric whispered reminders. Cassana passed summary of trade proposals. When floor opened for nominations, Lord Mathis Rowan rose pattern. He proposed restoring Tommen Baratheon under Tyrell tutelage. Murmurs of dissent. Next, Lady Olenna's nephew suggested a triumvirate of Reach, North, and Stormlands. Prince Quentyn countered with elective monarchy, decided by all 7 kingdoms, plus Dorne. The chamber buzzed, alliances forming like slag lines. At midday recess, Arya pulled Gendry aside. Dragon faction meets tonight in Old Mint. Spy says they'll present proof of Queen's child tomorrow. We need eyes. He exhaled. I cannot sneak like you. You won't. She smirked. I will. You keep council from voting before morning. Then done chat. How? Talk. Argue. Share stormwine. Remember Forge. He swallowed nerves. I'll stall. When session resumed, Archmaester Valen presented survey on crop light spreading from Kingswood. Gendry seized chance, rising uninvited. While we debate crowns, he said, voice resonating grainy, fields rot. Stormlands reseeded thanks to rainfall we guided, but other regions need aid. I propose convocation of royal smiths and farmers to forge iron plowshares and distribute storm grain. Some lords scoffed, others nodded. He pressed. We allocate coin from Crownland's tariffs. Not glamorous, but hunger topples thrones faster than armies. Discussion spiraled. Grand debate on taxation consumed remainder of daylight. Votes postponed. Edric flashed grateful look. Night deepened. Gendry prowled corridors until Willis Tyrell intercepted, leaning on cane. Master Smith, Willis greeted. You speak passion, yet storms worry farmers. Assurance would ease them. Place horns in Hightower vault, with maester keys. Show trust. Gendry hesitated. Horns are inert, but they belong to Storm's End. Belong? Or threaten? Willis' gaze remained kind yet probing. If truly inert, vault does no harm. I will consider, Gendry said. Meanwhile, Arya slipped through mint shadows, eavesdropping on heated whispers between Sothiros traders and masked woman in green silk, rumored handmaid of the Silver Prince. Names sizzled. Aegon Brightscale, born of Daenerys and Dario Naharis, hidden near Korth. Promises to Salem West with Sellsword Legion. Proof? Dragonbone rattle, royal midwife testimony taught. Arya memorized details, slipped away unseen. Near dawn she returned to Stormden Hall. Gendry waited in courtyard, eyes ringed with sleeplessness. Prince exists? He asked. Maybe babe, maybe lie, she said. But coin flows. They push council to hold throne vacant until heir arrives. Gendry rubbed stubble. Vacuum breeds war. We need truth. Korth's months away. She glanced toward stable where her lean mare dozed. I could ride to King's Landing, find records. He shook head. I need you here. Council must see through scheme. Inspiration sparked. We bring midwife to testify under candle of truth. Arya arched brow. Kidnap across seas. Convince, he corrected. Arana's fleet sails tomorrow for Lys. Could reach Korth in weeks. Still slower than rumor. Then we stall again. He sighed. Willas wants horns vault-bound. Offering them might buy patience. Arya studied him. Can you part with them? He looked up at pre-dawn sky. Colorless yet infinite. Storm doesn't live in horns now. It lives in people we saved. A vault won't cage that. Decision set. They prepared. Second Council Day, Edric announced voluntary deposition of horns to neutral custody, until realm stable. Gendry relinquished Cedar Chest to twin hosts. Archmaester Hareth of Iron and High Septon. Keys split. Unlocking required both plus Edric's signet. Gesture drew applause from Reach and Riverlords. Some Stormlanders bristled but relented. Dragon faction attempted to press claim, but Willis Tyrell motioned to investigate proof first. Edric supported, citing Storm's sacrifice. Vote passed to commission inquiry rather than seat phantom heir. Arya smirked from gallery. Her whispers among Vale Knights had swayed enough. Day bled into night. Lute strings thrummed, wine dulled edges. Gendry stumbled to balcony for fresh air. There he found Arana, cloak salt-flecked. Sea Viper sails with dawn, she said. Charting Karth route. Discreet. He clasped forearm. Safe winds. She laughed. Prefer raging storm, but will manage. Thunder rumbled distant, natural. They shared grin. As bells tolled third watch, Council drafted interim charter. Regent Triad. Willis Tyrell representing South, Sansa Stark for North, Edric Storm for Stormlands, with advisory seats for Dorne and Riverlands. Crown decision deferred 1 year. Relief grain plan ratified. Wildfire reserves capped. Pirate amnesties negotiated. At sunrise, parchment sealed. Lords dispersed, some grumbling, many relieved. Gendry stood in courtyard, Arya beside him, watching ravens burst upward carrying news. It's not thrones, he said, but maybe it's steadier. Arya shrugged. Thrones wobble. Forges last. He chuckled. Speaking of, I need iron beneath nails again. Then let's go home. Ride back proved swifter. Hightower provided barges down Honeywine to Whispering Sound, saving days. On deck of wide-beamed river ship, Gendry crafted small horseshoe from scrap as gift for cabin boy. Hammer blows echoed across reeds. Night of last leg, Arya leaned against rail, and they spoke of future. Council year ends, she said. Maybe realm picks king, maybe not. Edric doesn't want crown, Gendry noted. Sansa less so. Willis perhaps, but Reach rarely pressed north. Maybe Smith King? She teased. He snorted. I break anvils, not laws. She touched his calloused fingers. You men too. He grew quiet. Heart hammering steadier than any forge stroke. After storms, after councils, where will you go? She gazed at reflection of stars and black water. I've chased names across world. Vengeance done, lists ended. I think I might just explore. Westeros full of roads I've never walked. He swallowed. Could use traveling companion. Plenty broken wheels need iron. She smiled sideways. We'll see if you keep pace. Storm's End greeted them with banners stitched during their absence. Crowned stag flanked by direwolf and rose, each lanced by streak of silver lightning. The Regent Triad. Kasana reported good harvest outlook. Harbert jested recruits now outran his old cane. Michelle organized scribes to copy council edicts. Serpentless sky arched unmarred. That evening, Edric hosted open hearth feast. No golden goblets, only wooden trenchers, but laughter louder. Gendry drank sparingly, excused himself early to walk lonely beach below cliff. Tide whispered over pebbles. He knelt, pressed palm to wet sand, felt world's quiet hum. Behind, Arya's footsteps. Still forging plans? She asked. He rose, turning them over, like coals. She looked seaward. Ghost serpent, ever return. Maybe when realm forgets calm? He mused. But pieces forged need stoking too. She nudged him with elbow. Come, master of forges. Folks expect dance. He offered arm. I've 2 left feet. I'll lead, she said, looping arm through his. You just keep hammer's rhythm. They ascended path, moon painting silver above. Gendry glanced once more at quiet horizon. He thought he saw a faint curl of cloud shaped like massive wing, then blinked, and it was gone. He smiled. Storms might sleep, but hope does not, and in the hearts of a smith and a wolf, and of every farmer, sailor, and child who had tasted lightning-sweet rain, flickered the ember of a future forged by their own hands, bright enough to guide even the darkest skies.